I guess I'm gonna have to do classes because I never really I mean, you can't be a demon saying, "Oh, I don't want to go to meditation." Think about you can. Busy. No, I just what song? I mean, there's so many to choose from. You know, there's a song in here that it fits under Vaishnava glorification. Where's it from? Yeah, it's still in the Vaishnava section. We used to sing this one a lot. Ah, there it is. 52. Yeah, I'll sing that one. It's short. I used to know it by memory, but I gotta admit it. Okay. How about what tune should I sing? Don't everyone the best one at once. No, like a 2 beat. Better 2 beat. You want to do 2 beats? Oh, yeah. I need this 55 minutes. Okay. Bale sabajana Shiro Kripaya Mire Yugala Kripajano Ama Prati Ho Se Parashayga Se Mahasa I already sang Rupa, not the one. Lucky birthday, happy birthday, huh? I guess this is a happy birthday song, huh? Yeah. Huh? 50. You get rid
They
of
write them a
song.
little smaller.
Oh. I think you were putting up some.
Sri Rupa Manjari Pada Jai Mora Sampada
Rupa Manjari Pada Jai Mora Sampada
Jai Mora Bhajana Puja
Jai Mora Bhajana Puja
Jai Mora Anamana Jai Mora Bhajana
Jai Mora Bhajana Jai Mora
Jai Mora Jivana Mora Rasamnidhi Jai Mora Panchasiddhi
Jai Mora Raswani Jai Mora Panchasiddhi
Mora
Na Amulyaratnabhushanam Namami Nandanandana Subhambayam Saurabham Puro Virajikostuvam Sudachivasvalancharam Namami Nandanandanam Sunagaram Vilasarugavasasam Surendrakamanochanam Namami Nandanam Ashtakam Padeyo Shamayam Vitattare Bhavati Dustaram Labhetaram Vijubhagam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Govinda Vrindavandite Vilokanshakaharini Prasanna Bhakta Pankaja Nikunja Bhuvilasi Brajendra Bhanurangini Rajendra Suna Sankate Karakari Shasiyamam Kripakatasya Bhajanam Ashoka Krisha Valanari Vitanamanda Pastite Prabhala Prabhala Prabharanam Vikomaye Varabhaya Swarakare Prabhuta Sampadaye Kadakari Shasiyamam Kripakatasya Bhajanam Anangaranga Mangala Prasanna Angura Brahman Savigraman Sasambhavam Sarikanta Bhajapajaya Nirantayam Vashidita Prakriti Nandanandane Karakari Shasiyamam Kripakatasya Bhajanam Karistuvana Sampaka Kalita Kora Vigrahe Mukha Prabhaparashta Koti Sara Bindu Mandare Vichita Chitta Sanchara Chakora Shavalochane Karakari Shasiyamam Kripakatasya Bhajanam Ayovajati Pramodamanamandite Priyanuragaramandite Kalavilasamandite Ananyadanya Kunjaraja Kamake Nikodite Karakari Shasiyamam Kripakatasya Bhajanam Shesha Bhava Bhavati Prabhuta
You sing. You're my favorite temple singer. Okay, yeah, let's sing. Hey, it's a 2B. Hari Hari Kobe Moro Hoibe Sudino 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 Bhaji Basi Radha Krishna Hoya Premadina 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 Sujante Misaya Gabo Suma Purata Sujante Misaya Gabo Suma Purata Anande Karibo Duha Rupa Gurnaga Anande Karibo Duha Rupa Gurnaga
karo rupa sanatana Raghunatha dasa moro Sri jiva jivana Ebara karuna karo lalita visakha Ebara karuna karo lalita visakha Sakha bhave sri damasu Pala adi sakha Sabe mili karo daya Puru parayasa Sabe mili karo Sabe mili kara daya Hari bol, hari bol, hari bol, hari Jai Radhe, Jai Krishna, Jai Radhe, Jai Krishna.
I'll do the high part. You can do the rest. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama
अज्ञानतिमिरस्य
ज्ञानशलाकया तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः गुरवे गुरुचन्द्राय राय कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय हरभक्ताय नमः यं प्राजन्तमर्पेतमपेतकृतं वैपायनो विरहाजुहाव पुत्रेति तं मयजं करोमिषु तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि भक्त्यादीनाम् अपराधस्य चित्तस्य कामातीतानं नमः कृपामयिनां शरणं प्रपद्यं वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् Tavasmi, Ajivam Tambina, Iti Vidyayarade, Tam Nayamam Sharanantike. First I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev. Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Stotri Sat Shishimat. Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, and the same unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Shiksha Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Astotra Sat Shishi, Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, on this most auspicious day of his divine appearance. As you know, there's no difference between disappearance and appearance of the pure Vaishnavas, because both of them afford us an opportunity to remember them, which is the root cause of freeing ourselves from the cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death, and all mental, emotional, and physical obstacles on our bhakti path. So we're beginning by requesting Srila Gurudev to manifest his own glory. As many of you know, since since his Gurudev's time, Srila Gurudev would lead the devotees under his Gurudev in the Brajmandal Parikrama, and he continued to do that after his Gurudev's departure. Then in the 1996, when he began his world tour, he started inviting all the Westerners to come and join him on his Navadvip and Brajmandal Parikrama. The following is a Brajmandal Parikrama from 1996. Is it in English or does it have subtitles? Okay, it has subtitles and hopefully some of it is in English also. Okay.
What's in the part you would translate? Oh, good.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here under this Bansi bar, and he was waiting here, and singing this kirtan, that when a day will come, that I will come to this tree, weeping and remembering the pastimes of Krishna. When I will go to Bandi Bhatt, when I will go to Radha Kund, and I will touch the water of Radha Kund, when I go to Bansibar and the very sacred chaya mein, in the shadow of this tree, I will sit and lament for Krishna till separation. Then I will go to Bhandir Bhatt and all other birds. When I go to Mansi Ganga and take water and I will drink. And always remembering Krishna pastime. कब मैं वृंदावन में बंसी बट की छाया में जाकर के बैठूंगा, कृष्ण की लीलाओं का स्मरण करूंगा. कौन है यहाँ से हट जाओ, बच्चे को शांत. So when you are alone, you can do it, but not at the time of I will take all big bags to whom I will see that they are making their hands in that hole and they are singing here and there. If you are giving your hands in that, then you cannot never chant or you cannot do kirtan, because in this sound you cannot do any chant. That is why I am praying you all to do kirtan and to dance in this place. And remember all the pastimes which I am telling to you. The song is like this. Narottam Thakur is telling, when he came to all these places, and he was telling that, oh, when a day will come that I will be Vrindavan Vashi, I will live in Vrindavan, and I will take darshan of Radha and Krishna Jugal, conjugal. When a day will come that living my husband, living my wife, living my children, all relatives, giving our delicious force and sleeping on the very Dunlop beds, very good things, and pillows very soft, wearing so much precious, costly dresses, hairs so carved and good, well decorated, giving up all these things, all kinds of desires. When I will come to Vrindavan, here you have come, living out all happiness and all kinds of comforts. Your palatial residence I have seen everywhere in Western country, in England, in Holland, in America, Canada, in Bezar especially, everywhere. Like a king cannot enjoy all these things. But now you are roaming here in Vrindavan, getting all happiness and all kinds of hope, enjoy, sense gratification, without shoes. But I know some devotees are like that. They like to take more delicious food. They are not satisfied of this food that we are offering to deities. They want more fine rice. They want so much comforts. They don't want to have any kind of discomfort. They don't want. They want. If they want like so, they should return to their homes and live comfortably there, and very Dehradun rice, rabadi, rasagolla they can take in their homes. They are coming for this. That Narottam Thakur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, never took any delicious thing. Only lafda, danger, mixture of all these things. Never took any good sweet or anything. These are not the symptom of doing bhajan. At least for 1 month we should try to see what is called these kinds of bhajan, akinchan and niskinchan. Give up all these things, all the desires in your homes and come with me in Vrindavan. So this Narottam Thakur is praying like this. We should give up all the kinds of comforts and all kinds of desires and everything. And then come to Vrindavan and see where Krishna and Radha are conjugal. Lament for this. So in separation mode here, if you are going all places and we are not feeling any separation for Krishna, in vain everything. So try to realize all these things. So when a day will be there, when we will go and we will rolling on the earth in this dust. We are telling, Kabe brajer dhulaye dhusara kabe unko. We see that these dust are like no. ये लोग सब क्या होता है ना आजकल pollution and it will make us dirty. But he is telling, I want to roll down on these dusts and whole body will be covered with these dusts. When it will come. So don't try to fear from all these dusts. They will make your heart so clear from all kinds of lust and impurity. Sadarasa bhojan dure parihari. I don't want to take delicious foods of 6 kinds of very delicious, sweet. Sometimes Shana that we gave in Madhuban, without salt or anything. Sometimes fasting here and there, always weeping and feeling separation. So try to be like that. And if you will feel that Maharaj management is not good, we are not having delicious foods, no palanka, very good beds, pillow, and hosting houses not so good, no bathroom, nothing. For 1 month, you should try to forget all things. Then you will realize the glories of this Vrindavan. Parikrama kariya bedabo bane bane. When it will come. Daily I go to Vrindavan and I will see groves, I will see mountains, Giriraj, Govardhan, Radha Kund Shyam, and this is a special place. This is a place. Bansi Bhat is not only in Vrindavan. There are so many Bansi Bhat. Where Krishna used to dance on the shade of this Bansi Bhat. Also this is another Bansi Bhat in Bhandir Bhat. Here Krishna gopis, all gopis dance so sweet on the bank of Jamuna. Jamuna is here. And they played Ras here also. You know that when Krishna went to Mathura, and all the Gopa and Gopi were so much feeling separation and they were weeping, lamenting. Shridham, you know who? The brother of came to this place. He began to weep here. If Krishna is not coming in Vrindavan Braja, then I will live here. No fasting always, not taking any food or drinking water or anything. Always weeping and weeping. And he was waiting for Krishna here. That when Krishna will come from Mathura and then I will go to Vrindavan or Braja or anywhere. So still he was here for 5,000 years. After that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when came, he saw that, oh, from outside he is golden color, but actually he is Krishna. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they embraced each other. Then Sridham became happy. Otherwise he was so unhappy, always weeping. He had to be so. Being in the Vrindavan, in here in all places, and always weeping. When Krishna will come, then I can be alive. Otherwise I will die. Feeling always separation. So this is the symptom of doing bhajan. This is the mode when how we can do bhajan of Krishna. Oh, I will be tired by walking, doing parikrama, and then I will see Jamuna, I will talk, I will take bath, and I will give up all tiredness. I think you are all tired. Some of you are tired, especially the persons who are so fat like they are tired because they are not doing kirtan and dancing. I want that all should dance and do kirtan in parikrama everywhere. Don't tire. But he is telling like so. So when I will go and sit under the shade, very cool shade of this Bansiva, and I will cry, weep, and feel separation here. So then it will come. We should also pray like this. Tavai vasmi najivami toya vina iti vidyaye raji tam me maam. O Srimati Radhike, O Gopis, I want to be your maid servant. I want to serve conjugal Radha and Krishna. So fulfill my desire. I don't want any worldly desire, no sense gratification and nothing else. I want to be yours and yours. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Gaut Premanande. There is a little pond, it is called Shyam Talaya, pond of Shyam. All were thirsty, doing ras, and then Krishna took his flute and made a pond, and it was called Shyam Talaya. In that temple, Sri Ram is waiting for Krishna. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nityananda Prabhu came and he met with them. And then he went to the with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gaur Praman. Now we will go to bus and from there we will go to Mansarovar. Gaur Praman.
Shri Gurudev ki jai. I was just reading a lecture the other day, which he gave in Alachua in 2003, where he said that the transcendental potencies of Krishna, the spiritual potencies which manifest the spiritual world, that is Hladini, the pleasure potency, and Radha, who manifests all the happiness of all the devotees in Vrindavan, and all the gopis, and she manifests the pleasure of Krishna as well. He couldn't feel pleasure without her. And the Samvit potency, which is knowledge, or more specifically, relationship with Krishna and all the different rasas. These two potencies on the platform of Sandini, Krishna's existential potency, which manifests all of his abodes, all this is coming as in the form of the Harikatha of the pure devotee. Isn't that amazing? His Harikatha is not different from Hladini, Samvit, and Sandini potencies. So now I'd like to know who would like to speak first. Okay. Indupati Prabhu?
Ajnanatimarandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Itadalaye Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakturinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. First of all, I offer my prostrated obeisances at the Lord's feet of my Shri Gurudev Nityalila Vishnu Om Vishnu Parastotara Shri Shishimad Shri Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj at the Lotus feet of our entire Shri Guru Varga, unto all the assembled Vaishnavas and Shrimati Shamaraki. So, it was not so long ago we celebrated Shri Gurudev's Tirupad. It seems like such a long time ago. A whole month has passed. And again, we are here to remember the glories of our Gurudev. But actually, we are meant to remember our Gurudev every single moment of every day. With these festivals, they are our beginning in the process, in our neophyte stage, when the tendency of our mind is to go to material things. How will I maintain my body? How will I maintain my economic situation? How will I fulfill my desires? So very mercifully, the Lord has arranged that there is at least one appearance day and one disappearance day of our Gurudev. And if we have many different Shiksha Gurus, then we will have many different days on which we can remember this principle of Shri Guru. So this Shri Gurudev explains in many places that without the association of a Rasik Bhakta, no matter what one's Swarup may be, it will not manifest without that association. So we may be thinking, yes, I'm a Gopi, or I'm a Gopa, but unless we have that intimate, deep Sambandha relationship with the Vaishnava, with the Guru, who has that relationship with Krishna, and who will imbibe that relationship into our heart in a practical way, then it will never manifest, even after millions of years of chanting Hare Krishna. So, Shri Gurudev explains that sometimes we may hear something from one Vaishnava that appears to be different from something we hear from another Vaishnava. And we may even hear something from our own Guru at one time that appears to be different from what our Guru says at another time. And Shri Gurudev explains that with the association of a high-class Vaishnava, one will be able to reconcile these apparent contradictions. But our tendency in the neophyte stage is we want to think one Vaishnava is right and the other one is wrong, or my Gurudev said they were correct thing at one time, and he said something maybe not correct at another time. So it is very important to understand this deep principle that we may not in our current stage understand how all the statements of our Guru Varga, of our Guru and the Shastras can all be reconciled with each other in one harmonious way. And we may not be able to see which angle of vision is necessary to be able to accommodate this apparent difference. So in our material life, we have experience also that maybe someone is our friend and we have a very good relationship with them, and one day we have a fight, and then it seems like, oh, this person's not my friend anymore. For those who are a little more experienced, they know that sometimes friends, they hug each other, and sometimes they fight with each other. Sometimes family members, they embrace each other, and sometimes they fight with each other. But we know that underlying all that there's some principle that keeps them united in their relationship. So even sometimes we may see Vaishnavas apparently fighting with each other. Even Sri Advaita Acharya and Sri Nityananda Prabhu would fight with each other, apparently. They would even throw prasad at each other and yell obscenities at each other. But it's explained in the Shastra, in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, that one should not take sides when two Vaishnavas are apparently fighting, thinking, oh, this Vaishnava is correct and this one is not correct. Or even thinking, why are two Vaishnavas fighting? This is not Vaishnava principle to fight. But actually, every quality that any jiva has or any associate has, that is ultimately coming from Krishna. Why we never saw Krishna fighting? We never saw Krishna arguing. We never saw Krishna telling any lies. No, these things are all happening. Krishna has all the qualities. There will not be any quality in any other being that is not ultimately coming from Krishna. So, in order to become, as Srila Guru is explaining in this lecture, if we want to do bhajan, we have to learn so many things, and we have to associate with those who know how to do bhajan in order that we can do bhajan. This was a very cutting speech by Srila Gurudev about how we're so attached, especially those of us who are born and raised in the West. We think, oh, I have just a small apartment or a small house. But Gurudev is explaining even the kings. In Vedic culture, this is like a king's position, to have running water, and to have your own bathroom, and to have a stove that you just turn on and the heat comes. And you can just go to the store and buy any fruits or vegetables from all over the world. We don't appreciate what kind of opulence this is, because we become accustomed to it, and then we think, oh, I need something more. I only have a toy Buddha. My goodness, my life is finished. Now I need a better car. So it's okay for now. So the principle of material enjoyment never ceases. There's never any material opulence that will satisfy the soul. Just like if you take a fish out of water, you can give him any amount of rasgullas, but unless you put him in the water, he will never be happy. So similarly, the soul cannot be happy with any amount of material wealth and any amount of sense gratification. It will just go on and on and on. But this body cannot tolerate too much sense gratification and will end up just becoming sick. So our Gurudev, in the line of our entire Guru Parampara, which is an unbroken chain coming from Sri Krishna, they've explained to us that you don't belong in this material world. You are not part of this material world. You are a spiritual being having a material experience. The scientists, they say that the consciousness is a product of matter. When matter evolves, as you all know, the theory of evolution, that then matter evolves from very primitive stages and evolves into more advanced stages. So first of all, you have the creatures of the water, very primitive creatures, and they evolve onto land, and they become land creatures, and then eventually they become birds and mammals, and top, eventually the topmost achievement is the evolution to a human being. So we think that we are the top of the tree, and with this attitude, there is so much exploitation in the material world. The humans, they are exploiting all the other species of life for their own benefit. And then this attitude we see, although it is hidden from us, we think everything is nice, and behind the scenes, as you all know, there are terrible slaughterhouses not so far away from any place. And the suffering that is going on behind the scenes is so incredible we cannot even imagine. We were hearing this morning, Rupnarayan Prabhu was talking about his experience of tasting the association of the Jamadutas and how he was screaming. So this screaming is going on day and night in the slaughterhouses. And these slaughterhouses are there because of this this pride. The pride that I am the pinnacle of evolution, and all the other creatures in this world are at my disposal for my enjoyment. Srila Bhakti-Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj explains there's two approaches to life. One is the principle of exploitation, and the other is the principle of devotion. So these are opposite principles. The principle of exploitation and the principle of dedication. So, I don't want to go on too long. Many other devotees want to speak. When Srila Gurudev joined the Math, I was just reading, and it's a very nice book, and everyone should have a copy of it. This is Sri Gurudev, this is the first volume, Sri Gurudev's biography by Srila Bhaktivedanta Madhav Maharaj. And there's also another volume, which maybe someone here has a stack of them somewhere. Ananda Mahaprabhu has a collection of them. Many wonderful pastimes of Sri Gurudev from his youth and his early days of joining the Math. And he's explaining that when Sri Gurudev joined the Math, and there was only 3 rooms. One for the deities, one for Param Gurudev, and one for everybody else. And those who couldn't fit in the room, they had to sleep on the veranda. So Srila Gurudev didn't just manifest as the big guru for us all to bow down to. Sometimes we may think, why is this person getting so much worship? Why I am not getting so much respect? But if we look back in Srila Gurudev's life, he did not spend his whole life being adored and worshipped. Srila Gurudev went through his whole life very humbly serving. When he came to the mat, he was washing the pots. The pots were black from using wood. They would use wood to cook in those days, so the pots became so black. But Srila Gurudev was cleaning the pots, and he was cleaning the toilets. And he was doing all kinds of menial services for the Vaishnavas. And Gurudev, in one lecture, he was explaining that those who think that I'm very intelligent, because I have been given my one seva, and I'm one-pointed in my seva, and I don't do anything else. So if anybody asks me to do anything else, no, Prabhu, this is not my service. So Gurudev is explaining that this mentality, you're trying to cheat Krishna, but you cannot cheat Krishna because he's more intelligent than you. So there are so many ways our minds will try to trick us. So once in a while we come together, we try to hear what is the real principle of spiritual life, what is the real attitude of a Vaishnava towards this material world, towards the Lord, towards the other devotees. And this way we can progress to become from Kanishta to Madhyam Vaishnavas, and in Madhyam we can actually start to do some real bhajan. And then maybe one day in some distant future life, we can roll in the dust of Shri Vrindavan and attain the association of Shri Shri Radhakrishna Yugala. So on this day, I pray to my Shri Gurudev that I cannot shed a single tear today because I was so busy. Gurudev says, if you're so busy and you don't have any time to weep for your Gurudev, then what is the use of these festivals? So on that note, I beg forgiveness for my lack of tears, and I pray that I may somehow develop a real mood of service instead of just a pretentious mood, because my real desire is to obtain name and fame. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Gave us the essence, beautifully gave us the essence of Srila Gurudev's talk on parikrama, about what he wanted us to give up, and he also expounded on the essence of Guru Tattva, and the Siddhanta of Guru Parampara. He also said that we may think I'm a gopi, but without the association and mercy of the pure Rasic Vaishnava, it will never come. When he said that, it reminded me of that same lecture of Alachua, which he gave in 2003 in February, where he said, so, you may be doubting. So, Gurudev, you mean to say that we're all gopis here? We have one guru giving one Diksha mantra, and we're all gopis? We're all of that same ras? So Gurudev said, yes. Otherwise, you would have gone to another sampradaya. Why is it that, how many people are there in Alachua? 6,000. And how many people are there in the world? 6 billion. And how many people are here in this class? 30, 20, 10. It is very rare, so you're all very rare. So be confident. Try to be in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then you'll actually be able to enter it. So he gave that encouragement.
Can I just ask one quick thing?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask in regards to what he was saying. So what's it like? How do you distinguish between like real like being humble, real like being truly humble and then as opposed to like not being like at the same time like respectful to yourself. Like in other words, like
self-esteem.
yeah, like self-esteem.
How can one be humble and have self-esteem?
And still have like self, so not to lose that, but then.
So Purandara Prabhu is asking, how do you tell what is real humility, and how can you be humble at the same time as having self-esteem and not having self-hate
For yourself.
Yeah. So I once asked Srila Gurudev about learning Reiki, because somebody taught me it and gave me the power for that, and it changed me from being not well to well. And then I started doing it for all the devotees in Vrindavan, but I was concerned that maybe this is not exactly favorable to bhakti. So I asked Gurudev about it, and he immediately said, does Radharani use any mystic powers? Reiki is a mystic power. Does Mother Yasoda use any? The coward boys, they could easily defeat Aghasura themselves. Any one of them could have killed Kamsa or Aghasura. But still, they're humble. Humble comes from praying. If you have yogic powers, you'll become puffed up. So humility and praying are synonymous. So when the coward boys have praying, they also are not thinking about themselves at all. They're just so, Krishna will protect us from this Aghasura demon. There's no question of self-denial or self-hatred or self-esteem. They're so totally absorbed in Krishna.
Yeah, I was asking because sometimes I see like, they're saying like people, devotees will say like, yeah, I'm so like fallen, I'm so this, I'm so that. And I'm like, that's good, and it's good to have that mood and be like that. But then at the same time, they start believing it, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm fallen, I'm horrible, I'm this, I'm that, and they just like go around with that mood, and it's just like a very sad mood.
Real humility means real humility means I'm fallen because I have no connection with Krishna. So what they do is they follow Srila Gurudev's instruction in the video and they weep. When will that day come when I'll give up these soft beds? When will that day come when I will roll in the dust and put that dust all over my body? When will that day come, as Gurudev said, when I'll give up the desire for 6 kinds of delicious foodstuffs? So that's real humility. When I'm in that humility, I'm praying for what I'm missing. Okay, so Arjun, who shall we?
Vimala Vaishnava.
The devotees don't have to face away from the deities.
Oh, flip a coin. Ah, you lost. This is not looking good for Srila Gurudev that no one wants to talk about it.
I agree. I agree with Dina Bandhu. It's not looking good that people don't want to glorify Srila Gurudev.
Everyone does.
Just kidding.
We'll go. You want to hear everyone?
It's being broadcast live all over the world.
I know, come on.
Okay, no one's listening.
Come on, you're on live. This is live.
Taking too much time. Let's do this.
Serving each other.
Glorify your good day.
Boring. Didn't
Give
Gurudev say
us
that?
one of the boys.
Yeah, one of them.
Call one of the boys.
The mic is right by you.
Somebody call one of the boys. Raghunath Prabhu or
Murthy Prabhu.
Go ahead, Vedanta Sutra.
Thank you. You sit here though because otherwise some people will have to face away from the deities. You sit here. Can you raise that a little bit?
Let's see.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhika Mama Shri Krishna Nihitati Sadakshmadaya Shukam Varambaranyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Shri Sandamami Shri Dhaminam Bhakti Shiram Cha Shri Krishna Kadabja Dirita Niriti Shri Amrita Sarasaram Narayanam Sitatam Prabhadi Gauradevi Gaur Chandraya Radhika Krishna Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. So I was reading a lecture earlier today and yesterday that Gurudev spoke on his own Vyasa Puja, and it was similar to some of the things that Indupati was speaking about, and Didi also. And he was talking about I had a conversation with some devotees from ISKCON, and they were asking Srila Gurudev about about Guru, and he had quoted from Gaurvashtakam, the verse where he was saying like Guru in full is not just serving Guru. He's also serving Radhika like Rupa Manjari and Bhakti Manjari and Vilas Manjari. And then he quoted the verses from Upadeshamrita about one who can control their senses, Vajravegam, Manasukrodavegam, and he may be able to do this. And then he went on to say, the four things that one should avoid. Was it Didati Pitikanati? Atyahara prayer is just the first verse. Yeah, one who's not trying to endeavor to make too much money or being too attached to sense enjoyment and all these different things and how they're unfavorable. And then, the six things that are favorable, ultimately following the footsteps of the acharyas. And then he said even up to non-rupa charinan, that maybe even following this hearing and chanting and absorbed in Krishna's glories, but if they're not in there, they can be guru in part, but not in full until they're serving like the manjaris in that mood. And reading this is it's so clear. Gurudev is so clear, and just so cutting. Hearing lectures about taking everyone's japa bags, just no nonsense. I wasn't fortunate enough in this life to been able to associate as much as so many other devotees, and there's so many devotees here. So much more senior than me, but since everybody's not doing it, Didi asked me, I feel like not have to. And but in the end, this one devotee was asking about the devotees. What about devotees that fall down? And he said, "Oh, they are not even devotees because they're not only are they cheating other people, but they're cheating themselves ultimately." So I feel so grateful to be in the association of so many Vaishnavas, and pray for the Vaishnava's mercy that I can continue to be in the association of Vaishnavas and serve the devotees and give up my attachments to all my sense gratification and my comforts so that I can roll around in the dust and the ecstasy with the Vaishnavas and hear attentively Harikatha from Shuddha Vaishnavas.
So Prabhu, here's your example of humility. He's saying, I'm not there and I want to be there. That's an example.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Prabhu.
I was actually
Okay.
So I wanted to talk about a little bit about what we've been discussing. I see that even within my life, how much I can appreciate the Vaishnavas because I've seen that they have so much love in their hearts to serve Gurudev, to serve Prabhupada, to serve the devotees, and that has continued on even throughout so much. We may have some difficulties or some differences, but I still see, like, since the sincerity in the Vaishnavas to try to serve, continue to serve, continue to their Gurudevs, serve Prabhupada, serve the Vaishnavas, and to. So I was just trying to appreciate. I know that, like, for me, like, most of my childhood was pretty, like, I blocked out most of that. I don't remember much of anything. So until actually the first pure, like, great Vaishnava pure devotee that I met, that was the first time that I actually thought about, like, this is, well, definitely this is someone special, but like that was the first time I actually thought about, like, wow, this is like I'm in a special movement, special birthplace, like with special, very amazing people. That was the first time, for example, that I had really thought about Krishna consciousness, and that was in Hawaii, 1990, and it was the one who got first, second, and then sannyas, like, really quickly. Yeah, Gaur Govinda Maharaj. So I had the opportunity to see him when I was young. He came for like 2 weeks, and that was like the first time in my life that I ever, like, thought about Krishna, like really thought about Krishna consciousness. And then it wasn't again until really till Gurudev. So it was definitely the one who got me really, like, getting serious about really thinking about, like, doing something in spiritual life and, like, really trying to practice and think about it and work at it and all like that. So yeah, I just wanted to say that we're all so much indebted. Like, that's why they say we can never really give back to our Gurudev what he gave us, but we can keep trying by serving and continuing to move forward doing devotional service with the devotees. So that, yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Advaita Prabhu was sharing that one is impelled towards Krishna by meeting a pure devotee, it automatically happens. By that mercy that's coming from his glance and the pure prema atoms coming from his body. Thank you. Advaita Prabhu, do you mind sitting here?
Ogyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Gurudeva Ki Jai. Thank you, Srimati Shamani Didi, engaging us all and guiding us all. Thank you very much. So, on this day, like Indupati Prabhu was saying, it's like for me, it's a check-in point. It's a stark reminder of the purpose and the goal of life, really, but also of how I identify myself. It's an opportunity for me to honestly check in on that point, because especially for the last several years, my identity is more and more myself, my own life, my family, my responsibilities, more myopic, on my own priorities, my own struggles, my own situation. And it's actually despite how qualified I consider myself, which is, I hold myself in very high esteem because I have that negative quality. But despite that fact, this world is an unsafe place to be drifting in alone. That's a fact. Maya is so strong that she can make you think that it's actually okay. But it's like the bug inside of the hole with the wasp. What is that example?
Well, they say that the bug becomes a wasp in its next life, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah? Next life?
The wasp puts the bug in the hole and blocks it up, and the bug is meditating on the wasp in fear.
Oh, maybe I'm mixing up the example then. Is there another example? Maybe it's a snake and a something. There must be a snake.
There's a person in the hole and he's looking up and there are things coming at him.
Maybe I'm making this up. So that's another option.
With the well and the snake and the lion above.
Well, the point is that.
Honey dropping.
Yeah, that's the point. Thank you, DVD. No, the idea is that I can't remember, but there's one animal who's about to be eaten by another animal. The rat. Maybe the rat and the snake. Yeah. And then, but the rat or the mouse is simply closing his eyes, thinking that the snake is not there, the snake is not there, the snake is not there.
It's like the ostrich that puts his thing in the head in the ground, and the lion's coming after him.
That's a good one too. Anyways, that's my position. I'm an ostrich with my head in the ground, and the snake is coming with the lion on its back.
So instead of Hawaii Krishna, we're like ostrich Krishna.
So anyways, Maya has that capacity, that covering potency, Avranatmika Shakti, to make you think that despite the obvious precarious situation that we're in, Maya makes each conditioned soul who's covered by her think that everything is really okay. I have my Wednesday night soccer. I can chant, whatever I chant on my own. I can read a little bit here and there, and it's almost like a false sense of comfort that I've fallen into, honestly. And these days are so helpful by the mercy of Srila Gurudev and all of the Vaishnavas, because they shake up that complacency, or they give us the opportunity to shake up that complacency at the very least. And then by the collective encouragement of all of the devotees who come and share their hearts, share their realizations, and engage in devotional service together. Like how this day went is how our days are supposed to be. This is the norm. Hearing, chanting together, glorifying together, doing kirtan, taking prasad, honoring each other, glorifying Gurudev, glorifying Vaishnavas, hearing Hare Katha, sharing our realizations. This is real life, and most of the time I'm not living real life. But on these days, Srila Gurudev gives all of us, but especially me, an opportunity to taste that real life again. And it's so satisfying. It's so satisfying. It's based upon a real platform, a transcendental platform, and therefore the satisfaction is of a different quality to any other kind of satisfaction. Like Krishna conscious enjoyment is different than material enjoyment in many ways, but in one of the ways it's in how you measure it. You measure material enjoyment in a very specific way. I ate that much ice cream, I got that much ice cream's worth of enjoyment. It's a very yeah. They have ice cream all the time.
Ice cream. I think the women devotees measured ice cream a different way.
Maybe so.
I got that much more.
Yeah.
But there's only so much you can eat.
Or any other thing like that.
Brandner also measures it that way.
When sense enjoyment it's a more direct form of input and output in terms of sense enjoyment or sense objects, consuming them and sense enjoyment. But Krishna conscious enjoyment is not like that, and sometimes it's, for somebody who, like myself, who's materially absorbed, it's easy to miss because of that. And I'm expecting to measure and receive enjoyment or satisfaction or nourishment in a very kind of linear way, an obvious way. But Krishna consciousness is not like that. Like times when we can all relate to this, when we feel like a sense of deep satisfaction and spiritual enlightenment, spiritual bliss. It's not something that we did XYZ and we got ABC and result directly. It's a inner fulfillment that is a relief of, at least initially, it's a relief of the burden of material existence. And it's a sense of spontaneous attraction to things related to Krishna, which are inherently eternal, and therefore fear is removed. And any kind of material enjoyment, regardless of how high it is compared to other forms, whether it's in Sattva-gun versus Tamagun or whatever, it's always traced with fear because it's based upon an absorption in something non-eternal, asat. And so even the people who have, through their karma, the highest forms of material enjoyment, there's extreme fear. They become obsessed with security and having bunkers and storing things and food and all that, because there's an inherent fear to material existence, regardless of how high, so-called, that enjoyment will be. Anyways, I'm talking all kinds of basic things from my own mind. But again, to the point of this day, by Srila Gurudev's mercy, it's an opportunity to shatter these calcified material ideas and material aspirations. And so on this day, I'm just remembering again and again and again the instructions that Srila Gurudev gave to all of his disciples, but also to me personally, to become a real disciple, first of all, which is a tall order.
Is that what he said to you?
He said, "You should become my disciple." That was Srila Gurudev's first instruction to me. He said, "You should become my disciple." After Madhulita Saki ushered me into Srila Gurudev's room. He was staying at her house here in Alachua in 2008. That was the first time I met Srila Gurudev. He did a darshan for the Guru Kulis on the first evening he arrived, I think, which is very, very kind of him. And he, in that one darshan, 47, 48 minutes, something like that, all of my outstanding doubts and questions about Srila Gurudev were removed in one darshan. Not in some kind of miraculous way, but because each of the questions he answered. He answered each of my doubts and questions. And so at that time, I was in a open and accepting position. And the next morning, I came for the morning walk, and was just kind of tagging along and listening, and impressed by the quality of questions. I was impressed by Srila Gurudev's disciples, almost as much as I was impressed by Srila Gurudev initially. His disciples were so intelligent and so fixed up and so clearly absorbed in Krishna consciousness and in the philosophy. So I was just, even the quality of the questions was blowing me away, what to speak of the answers. The questions Gurudev's disciples were asked on the morning walk were so nuanced and refined, and I was like, oh man, I need to study for 10 years just to understand the question that's being asked, And so Gurudev's disciples were like that, and are like that, because Srila Gurudev is like that. So anyways, I was just hovering around kind of chanting after the morning walk, and Srila Gurudev was going to get his massage. And so Malita Saki, because she was kind to me, she would take me to Busch Gardens and to Daytona Beach and things like that with her son. And then she brought me, to see Srila Gurudev also. So that was the best trip ever. Was the trip from your front door to Srila Gurudev's room. And Malita Saki said, just prepare an answer. Prepare a question. I said, yeah, I'll ask a good question, something. I heard some good questions. And then I just walked into the door and paid obeisances and looked up. And Gurudev was standing, just a few feet away in his gamsha only, because he was just about to go for his morning walk. So it was Gurudev in his gamsha, his Brahmin thread and his just very beautiful form of Srila Gurudev. And I went, and Srila Gurudev said, have you taken initiation? No. He said, you should become my disciple. You should take initiation. Yeah.
What about this idea that you brought up about comfort, like this idea of getting into the routine of your family, and not just you, but anybody, family, friends, social life, etc. And then becoming comfortable with that, and then becoming doing a little seva here and there, and then that's what we do, and that's just the way we day to day. So I wonder how much of that is what if someone says they're totally comfortable with that, and that's just a natural thing. So is that just their total illusion, or are we just we're okay with that? We're
maybe I'll let Shamati Shamrani answer that.
Okay.
You can answer it.
Well, I mean, as far as my personal experience goes, and I can speak from that, I'm not progressing unless I'm feeling some austerity for my service, austerity for Srila Gurudev's pleasure. So there is a danger to being too comfortable. Sridhar Maharaj used to say rocking chair devotee. Has that idea? Where you're sitting in a rocking chair on the front porch, and you're rocking back, you're doing something, right? You're using some energy, right? You can't say you're not doing anything, Like for me, I can't say I'm not doing anything, but how much progress, how many inches have I moved forward in a full day or a full month or a full year of rocking back and forth in a rocking chair?
Eventually, you move forward on forward.
But what if they say that's just the natural tendency is to be that way. I mean, there's nothing bad about it. It's just that's just material nature. You're doing that, and you're fine with it.
So maybe I'll let Didi answer, because I'm sure her answer will be much more elucidating. But I'll finish my offering of Pushpanjali to Surya, just expressing my gratitude to him and his mercy through all of his devotees for never, ever, ever ceasing to give me and all of us the opportunity to come close to him. I remember Sudevi and Kishore Mohan Prabhu's, they were here. It's 3-4 years ago now. It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah, they haven't been here
5,
in a long
6
time.
years.
But once Sudevi, she spoke how she came to Gurudev and she said, Gurudev, I feel like I'm not doing anything for you. Like, how am I qualified to even have you have the opportunity for your service? I'm not doing anything, and I'm struggling so hard, and I feel like nothing. I can't accomplish anything. And Srila Gurudev said, "Oh, have you forgotten? Who is Sri Guru, or what is the affection of Guru? It is millions of times more than the most qualified mother even." Just like a mother, what happens? A newborn baby comes, and the newborn baby is not doing anything. Rather, the newborn baby is taking everything from the mother, taking her sleep, taking her blood in the form of breast milk, and all these things. Newborns, it's like that. That's how it is. No sleep, breast milk, which is just a transformation of so much blood and so much energy, so much everything. So really, the newborn baby is taking everything from the mother, and the newborn is not doing anything for the mother, and nothing in return the baby is doing for the mother. But still, then the baby, first time, it passes stool, and then the mother thinks, "Oh my gosh, you did so well! I can't believe it. You passed, good, good girl, good baby, good boy." So even though the baby is really not doing anything, in fact, what they're doing is kind of like foul, but the mother has so much affection that by her affection, she interprets that thing, she sees that thing in such a way that it is such a big achievement of that baby, because the baby is fully dependent on the mercy of the mother. So Srila Gurudev said, so Guru has this kind of affection and more. So even
this
though
is very encouraging Kata. Like a whole month of Kata, and that'll be good for my body.
So anyway, Sudevi was reminding us all of this tattva, this message of Srila Gurudev, that his affection is millions and millions of times more than a mother for his disciples. So even if what we're doing is completely insignificant, I can speak for myself, it is. It's completely insignificant. That the encouraging thing is that not by our qualification, but by the intense affection of Srila Gurudev, he sees that in such a kind way. He gives us so much credit and encouragement. And just like a mother will never, neglect the child or reject the baby if the baby kicks and cries and whines and bites and all these things which babies do. But the mother's affection is so thick that always welcoming the baby, taking care of the baby. So that is our position, and I feel that from Srila Gurudev that no matter how distracted or covered or illusioned I am, just if I attempt to reconnect, even a few minutes of sincerity or on a day like this, then immediately Gurudev is there welcoming, showering so much mercy and affection himself directly and also through the devotees. So thank you eternally, Srila Gurudev. You are our guide and our well-wisher and our eternal spiritual master. And we're just praying to develop some kind of relationship through service to you. Thank you.
So Prabhupada was confirming what our Guru Varga says about the importance of this day. And he gave the example from his own life, how much he's appreciating this day and then wanting more of his days to be like this, which he says is the norm. And then it's so interesting that even though he was expressing unhappiness and how his life is absorbed in what he called, starts with a C, calcified mentalities. Still, he was expressing himself in such a philosophical way. You could see Gurudev's mercy coming through him and his whole conceptions of his life. So this is very exemplary. And I just want to say something to Vasanti in terms of Murti Prabhu's beautiful presentation, that she thinks that if I send out the same old Hari Katha, no one's going to appreciate it. So we sent out a lecture that we haven't sent out in 6 years, which is about how Guru is a manifestation of Srimati Radhika's heart, and just see how such a sincere devotee had affected his heart so much, and he was repeating that lecture. And Mint is repeating it in his own life. So
This is by your mercy then, by sending this lectures
His
out for us
total
to
mercy. So Vedanta Swami Prabhu, would you like to speak? Glorify your Gurudev? Okay, can you sit here though?
Oh, Vajana Chamaranda Sagarandra Sakaya. Nama Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyapne Shishana Bhakti Rantanai. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhakti Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Kame. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachani Nirse Shri Vadi. So before I start, I just want to offer my Koti Koti Dandavats to Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami, who is my Diksha Guru, and Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is my Harinam Guru, and to Shamarani Didi. We go back a long way, even in Hawaii, when you were there. We did one class on the Panchatattva, I remember that. And to all the assembled devotees who have come to glorify Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I just want to start out with one memory that I have. In 2008, Srila Gurudev was at the Bible camp. He was staying with Lalita Shaki, and every morning, every day before class, which is usually evening time over there, he would arrive with Madhava Maharaj, and maybe the fourth or fifth day, I kept meditating on how I was going to give Srila Gurudev a flower garland. And so he made this really nice garland, and my wife's friend, we had some flowers over at the house. And we made a really nice one that she had done, and Srila Gurudev got out of the car, and I went up to him and put the garland on, but it immediately, it wasn't tied properly. So it immediately fell off. And the most amazing thing, one of the most amazing things in my association with Srila Gurudev happened right there, that as I was looking right at him, and he was looking at me, and I was thinking, he was looking at me thinking, oh, he can't do anything right. And immediately, in one stroke, just a very smooth motion, I caught it, tied it, and put it around his neck again. And it was not anything of this material world. To this day, I look back, I think of, it was like a window to the spiritual world, like your paintings. It was Srila Gurudev's mercy on me for my desire to offer him the garland. And the spiritual world sort of opened up. And something that basically, like your painting, sometimes you paint and you go, how did that happen? I don't know how. So it was the same. It was just, and your devotees are around. I just smiled because maybe he's been through a few of those. And so that was one thing. and my faith increased for a few days after that until, of course, we forget. But it also increases the desire to want to do intimate service for Sri Guru. The devotee that was doing some of the massages, Nityananda, he was staying at the little trailer I had because it was close to where Gurudev was staying, and I'd give him a ride over there, and every day I'd ask him when he came out, I said, how was it? What did Gurudev say? Because he was so today, four of the devotees were massaging, I didn't get much chance. And I said, well, maybe I can, and he said, oh, there's too many devotees already. But we have this, when we do some intimate service for Sri Guru, if we can do some cooking, even if we can desire it, Sri Rupa Goswami describes how even the desire to serve Krishna, or the pure devotees, the devotees of Krishna, especially Hari Guru Vaishnava, if we have that desire to actually want to know what they want and to fulfill that desire, as the innermost, in our heart, and the innermost desires of our heart, that will lead us at some point to actually physically perform them. And by performing these services, whether cooking, massaging, or friendly activities requiring, we can actually get the strength to know Sri Guru, and more importantly, to be able to follow his instructions, which for conditioned souls are very, very difficult to do. So I just wanted to finish up by saying like this, that we should all desire to do some service, and in doing that service, we should also actually want to know what Srila Gurudev wants from us. What does he like to eat? Like if we have a relationship with our son or our wife, or even some friend that we've been with for many years, we sort of know what they want. But Sri Guru and Srila Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, and Parampara, they're very difficult personalities because they're coming from the spiritual realm, and for us to really know them and to please them is not an easy thing. So we can desire like this, and I don't see it happening anytime, only by their mercy. At some point, if we have to desire, they reciprocate, like just Abhakru was talking about, like that, like the baby. The baby it's not so easy for them to do anything and to reciprocate with the parents, but eventually they grow up and they're able to do that.
So Vedanta Sutra Prabhu reminded us for the second time about that baby example, which is so encouraging, as Dinabandhu said. And he also, from whatever he was saying, he reminded me that we actually all have one heart with each other, because we could relate to everything that everybody says. When he was talking about the garland falling, and then he fixed it in 1 second and put it back on, and magically, we could all relate to that. Then when he said, and I can only remember that for 3 days because then I forgot, we could all relate to that. So it's interesting how we all have one heart by Gurudev's and Prabhupada's, Guru Vardi's mercy. So he made that so evident by his sweet offering. Thank you, Prabhu. Keshwar Prabhu, would you like to share your dream and anything else? Are you ready? Okay. Can you please sit here so people don't have to? But then everybody will have to face their back towards the devas.
Okay, it's closed.
It's not really closed.
Yeah, that's right.
Keshwar Prabhu, would you like to share your dream or something? Okay, sit with her and then you can speak after. No, because you're in.
It's okay, she can sit down there.
Why are you so humble?
No, I'm not. Just pretend.
We want to loudly broadcast the glories of our Gurudev, don't we?
So I did not prepare today. I do have like half a poem though, and I would like to get up and get it because I forgot it.
Once one of Gurudev called on one of his girls to speak, and she said, I'm not qualified, I can't speak, or we can speak of the world is grateful. It went on and on like that. And then Gurudev said, just say the pranam mantra of your Gurudev, and that will give you strength. So she did that, and then she gave a little talk. He asked her to speak about why did thou, Srila Prabhupada, come here. So then, after she spoke and sat down, Gurudev said, I want all my girls to be strong like me, and just like lions jumping over the elephant. I don't want my girls to be like little kitty cats. Meow, meow.
Okay, so Jane, no mic.
I feel like I don't have any, I guess I'm gonna be like that girl in her story, Dee. I don't feel like I have any qualification to speak, and I kept trying to think today of what to speak, and nothing felt, I don't know. Anyway, I tried to write this little poem, and I will share it. Dear Shilaguri, I cannot fathom what you gave. You shower blessings from your heart, my devotional start. Our hearts you always steal. You make us feel, wow, it's all real. Like we haven't before. Our hearts and minds were feeling sore. You gave me holy name. My life will never be the same. With a single blue glance, I'm a fool but saved. My heart dance. When I feel so alone, when I felt so alone, because no one around me loved you, you read my mind and said, I will give you strength. Every year there were tears, the bad, sad, and the good kind. You assuaged all our fears. How are you? Gurudev, I'm fine. And that's my little half a poem. I was thinking earlier how so many times I would make so many mistakes and miss so many opportunities. And Srila Gurudev is always giving me unconditional mercy, and he was staying in Nanda Gopal Prabhu's house up the hill, and her servant, I can't remember her name. Ranga Devi. Yes, she came to our tent very early, and she would help us to get up for Mangal Arti. And this, I think it wasn't even the early Mangal Arti at the pavilion, it was the later Mangal Arti at Nanda Gopal Prabhu's house. And we were so, I was, so lazy and such a bum that I struggled to get up for that late Mangal Arti too. And I missed the opportunity to even go and clean Sri Gurudev's room once. That's how lazy I am. I preferred the ignorance of sleep to that wonderful service.
And competition.
And so that's one example. And even so, us ladies and girls, we would go to greet Srila Gurudev and sing to him when he would come back from his morning walk. And I was very, I was like the stupid village idiot of New Braj, sort of. I was like late to catch up to the mercy of Srila Gurudev, and all my friends were getting initiation, and I didn't understand, and I didn't want it, and he came to Badra when I was very little, and we were like, I was 8 years old, and my friends, there would be a certain point where they would stop playing and they would run up to the pavilion to listen to class. And I didn't understand why they wanted to stop playing and go hear class. And they would all just leave, and the whole area would be empty of all the kids. So I had nobody to play with, so I went to the pavilion too. And by the mercy of Srila Gurudev, I got to hear his Harikatha, even though I wasn't interested in hearing, and I would just color in my coloring books in the very back with my parents. And he would give cookies to all of us children. And there's a video somewhere where I get this cookie from Srila Gurudev, and I'm the only kid who doesn't pay her obeisances. And I had this little doll that was my little Radharani doll that Rukmini Devi of ISKCON, who does the Christian dolls, one of those dolls. And I don't remember, because I was so little, I don't remember if I told Gurudev that it was my Radharani doll. I don't think I did, because I was really afraid to talk to Srila Gurudev. But somehow he knew that this doll was the Radharani doll, not just a gopi doll. So he gave me an extra cookie for my Radharani doll. And another story of my ridiculousness and how Srila Gurudev was so merciful to me is when I was trying to decide, can you believe it, trying to decide whether to get Harinam or not from this pure devotee. I was a crazy person, and I was like this crying young girl in the house where Srila Gurudev was staying. And I was kind of wandering around the house like a strange person and talking to all these people and asking them questions. And it was really weird. And some of my family members were not favorable and some were. And so I was very confused. And someone must have told Srila Gurudev that there's this strange young girl walking around your house and crying everywhere. And, some of her family members are not favorable and some are. And Srila Gurudev, I don't know if he was going out somewhere or if he actually just came up to instruct me. But he told me very strongly, with a very stern face, to be like Prahlad Maharaj. And instead of seeing the mercy in that instruction, I felt like I'm saying I was really stupid. When he said that to me, I was worried that he was saying that my family was demons or something, because Hiranyakashipu, another time, I was late to greeting Srila Gurudev after his morning walk, and everyone would take off their shoes. And I had these shoes that were like Velcro and very difficult to take off. And I was struggling to take off my shoes very quickly, and Srila Gurudev was about to walk by. And I wanted the chance to go and touch his feet, and he saw me struggling with my shoes, and he waited so that I could come forward, and I got to touch his lotus feet. And when I stood back up, and he was wearing his turban in that very beautiful, elegant way, like he is here, and he did this little beautiful head shake and smiled at me so beautifully, and again just giving me mercy that I don't deserve, this unconditional love and mercy, like other devotees were saying, like more than a mother can even give. Thank you.
Jay spoke very beautifully, and she's very expert at everything, even though she pretends and says that she's not. Just like a tree that's full of fruits and flowers hangs down low, and a tree that doesn't have any fruits and flowers and doesn't have that heaviness, it's up straight. So she hangs down low in her very good qualities. And thank you for sharing all those very beautiful experiences with Srila Gurudev to his little children. How much mercy he bestowed, understanding their little babiness. It was very heartwarming, especially since devotees have kids here, and so they can appreciate how that father dealt with his little children. Okay, Shri Prabhu, would you like to share your dream and anything else you'd like to share?
Sure. Shri Gurudev Ki Jai. So just in case there's anybody here that doesn't know, I think most of you do know that Shri Gurudev is my Harinam Guru. So I didn't take Diksha from him, but he mercifully gave me Harinam initiation, my spiritual name, in 2004. at the North Carolina Festival, and that Harinam initiation was by telephone because of how many festivals. There was only 2 that he couldn't physically attend because of the sickness passed on, and one was that North Carolina in 2004, and then I think a year or 2 later in Hawaii. So anyway, that's what my connection was. But Srila Gurudev, he performed a miracle with me without needing to do any more than that, which is what, I look around at this, this wonderful assembly, and I can't understand how I'm even sitting here in front of you speaking. I was in a situation at the time when I took the Harinam from Srila Gurudev, and I was in a situation that, I don't know, looking back, it would have seemingly been extremely unlikely or even impossible to, turn in even in the direction of devotion and bhakti. The situation was, I was basically almost 40 years old, completely immersed in worldly, family, career, not a single thought of God or devotion. And in that situation, Srila Gurudev somehow, I don't know why, sent his disciples. He sent one of his disciples, who you all know, Vamsi Prabhu. I was seeking at the time, and I had heard that he was involved in some sort of spirituality. And I asked him about it, and so Srila Gurudev sent him first, and then shortly after that, I met Mukunda Prabhu, Sanatan Prabhu, and that was in 2003, and then 2004, by their association, somehow I was convinced to start this transition of, going from one mode of life to something like so diametrically opposed, and really not having any support, as my wife was not in the situation of being a seeker or having any interest. And in fact, of course, that can be somewhat scary for, in a family or a marriage, somebody turning in a different direction. But somehow or other, by taking Harinam from Srila Gurudev and being in the association of his disciples and followers, I'm sitting here right now. And I later took Diksha from Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj. So somehow all of that happened because Gurudev decided to, in this most unlikely situation of my life, to suddenly appear and change my life. So I don't know what he has in store for me, but I guess we'll have to see what happens. But I just wanted to share that. But to me, it's every day I think this is a miracle how I've been able to attend and hear all these wonderful stories that you all have. The other thing was I'd spoken to Shrimati Shamarani Didi about a dream that I had because I wasn't sure. I haven't really shared it before, and so I wanted to run it by her, and she was favorable towards sharing it. And the funny thing was that now I'm sure that Gurudev wants me to share it because it was almost like a setup without this theme about Gurudev, Sri Guru being like a father, even more than a parent, and that really was my dream. Sort of had that as the theme. So I was hearing that and thinking, it was almost like we had talked together and planned this out. Okay, let's have so-and-so speak and bring this up, that theme. So anyway, so I'll tell that story because I think it just fits in well with what's been said before. So I'm not sure how long after I took the Harinam initiation that this dream happened, but I think it was several years later. But in the dream, so I realized that Gurudev was sitting, and I was cradled in his lap. I was in my adult form. I was like a baby, but this was in a cradled position, as a parent would hold a baby or young child with not sitting in the lap facing forward, but with the head on one side and the legs sort of like that. So, and at first there wasn't a recognition of what was going on, but at some point, so here I am in that cradled position and looking, and now I realized that I'm in Srila Gurudev's lap, and I had not physically met him. So once there was that realization, I became very emotional. Like, oh, Gurudev, this is you. I can't. Is this real? How can this be? And so I became overwhelmed with emotion and started crying. And as I was crying, I was starting to become curious. What would his response be? How would he respond to my weeping? Would he come up with one of these beautiful things like, I'm closer to you than the air that you breathe, something so reassuring and loving? But that wasn't his reaction at all. And it kind of took me aback. So here I was weeping, Gurudev, and his reaction was, wah, wah, wah. So at that, you laugh because I was kind of stunned when I heard the wah, wah, wah. It's like, I didn't know exactly what the meaning was, what was his mood, because I was expecting something like a pat on the head, everything's going to be, I'll take care of you. But so then as I thought about it, it was like a joking. It wasn't making fun in a mean-spirited way. He was sort of joking, making fun of me in an affectionate way.
He's ragging on you a little bit.
Exactly. So then I felt very reassured because now it was no mean-spiritedness, but this affection. Like, he would only say that in a loving and affectionate way. And then that made me feel so good about our relationship, that there was a connection. Otherwise, he wouldn't have responded like in that way, because otherwise he would have, how I would have been devastated. Oh my God, he's making fun of me. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. It was good with the feeling like a baby before a Gurudev. A bunch of couplets.
So Keshwar Prabhu showed time and time again how Gurudev was following him and chasing him and finally putting him in his lap, and still putting him in his lap, because for so many years he's been transcribing Srila Gurudev's lectures, some of which turned into the Morning Walks book, some of which will turn into the art book, and he's also doing service for his Guru Maharaj of listening to the tapes and listing the topics within each tape so that they can further turn it into transcriptions or for devotees to study for classes. And he's doing the same thing for Srila Gurudev too, or will be.
Yeah, we'll be
doing the same thing for Srila Gurudev's audio team. So you can see from his history and his expressions how Gurudev was just going after him out of his causeless mercy. So Bimala, are you ready? Bimala Vaishnava?
I know, Bim, come on, Lily. She did call on you.
We waited all day.
Oh, God. So late. Just come on.
That's because you waited so long.
You set me up so nicely.
So it's so late. I'm going to speak 2 words. Like Abhay Guru was saying, and how Srila Bhakti began Bharti Maharaj always reminds us that these days are the treasure of the devotees. Is for like some of us who are always absorbed in work and unfavorable activities. These days help us to be absorbed, thinking about what am I going to say, what am I going to cook, and so it just forces us to be absorbed in Guru Seva for a short period of time. So there are wealth for Vaishnavas. It's Vyasa Puja every day for them, but so for us it's such a gift. And Srila Gurudev, so who is Vyasa? That person who delineated name, forms, and qualities of Shri Krishna from that world into this world. And that ceremony, which honors the Acharya while sitting on a throne and speaking those glories and inspiring others to also do so, is called Vyasa Puja. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he also established on the appearance day of each Guru the worship of that Guru. And Srila Gurudev, he says that real Guru Puja or Vyasa Puja is when that Guru worships his parampara and instructs his disciples to do so. And we saw that practically. Gurudev would always do that, and we're doing it today, always doing like that. So
I was pretty bad.
that was that, yeah. And Gurudev would always do that.
Takes a sheet of paper or two.
And so who is the Acharya? Gurudev explained that in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam it says, Acharya mam vidanyam narvam yata karchit narmacha sarvapujit. That one.
What is it?
Sarvadeva Maya Guru. That one, Krishna says to Uddhav that one should know the Acharya to be as good as myself. That one should never envy him or under any circumstances criticize him. That he is, and not consider him as an ordinary person because he is the sum total of all the demigods. And one time in class where Gurudev said that, Shamarani Devi asked, so how is the Guru the sum total of all the demigods? And Srila Gurudev said, out of all the demigods, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh are prominent. Lord Brahma, he creates the material world. Lord Vishnu, he maintains it. And Mahesh destroys it at the end of Kali Yuga. So Shri Guru, like Lord Brahma, creates bhakti in the disciple's heart by sowing the seed of devotion. When I first met Gurudev in person, we went to his room in Badger, and Gurudev asked me, well, Vijayananda Prabhu introduced us and said, oh, they want to take shelter of you. And then Gurudev said, oh, you want to become a first-class devotee? And I just thought in my mind, like, I don't think that's possible. You know, I never heard anything like that, just hearing about the great, devotees. But I was just like pondering, like, I don't think that's possible. But my face was just like, huh? and then Raj saves the day. He said, yes, Gurudev, she wants to become a first-class disciple. So like that, Gurudev sows the seed of devotion in the disciple's heart. And
give it to one lady. Give it to a lady.
And like Lord Vishnu, Srila Gurudev is maintaining the bhakti in the disciple's heart. Gurudev says that until the disciple comes to that stage of prema, he is maintaining his bhakti. And Gurudev said that we conditioned souls cannot understand how much endeavor it takes even to maintain just one disciple. And like Mahesh destroys this universe, Gurudev just enters the heart and destroys all the aparads and anarthas in the disciple's heart. So like this, he's the sum total of all the demigods, Gurudev explained. So, Hare Krishna, that's all I'm going to say.
She was very, very philosophical, quoting verses and repeating Srila Gurudev's message. And she's bringing Srila Gurudev's message throughout the whole country to hundreds of prisoners. And cultivating them and sending them newsletters of lectures of Srila Gurudev. And she's a very good speaker, as you can see, quoting verses and remembering.
Yes, she is.
Arjun, are you ready to speak?
Hala Prabhu.
Hala Prabhu. Please come and offer your Puspanjali, your heart in the form of flowers like words.
We don't know his story.
Ajnanasya Kyananjana Shlakaya Shakshurimitam Yena Tasmai Sriya Kruvaya Chandraya Radhikaya Tadaya Krishnaya Krishnamaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo. So today is a very, very auspicious day. I'm very happy that I have this opportunity to stay here with so many devotees, especially so many Buddha disciples, and hear all these stories, how they are connected to Sri Gurudev. I was thinking today all day what to speak, since I hear so many stories and devotees who are so connected to Buddha. I don't have so many personal pastimes with Sri Lanka Swami Maharaj. So I was thinking to speak something about himself, like what he has done in this world. And one of the things come to my mind is like how Srila Gurudev is like an ultimate magician in this world. Like usually a magician in English language is understood like a person who's illusionist, who does something and people don't understand. Or is also translated as a person who has a lot of mystic power and does something with unusual power. So our Gurudev, what I can't understand is that how our Gurudev traveled 33 times around the world, and he initiated approximately 300,000 disciples. And at the same time, it's very much like undercover. If there's no big hype behind it, there's no big banner and big temples, and none of this. It went on just like a home family festivals, very
underground.
Yeah, very underground, very, very like small, seemingly very small. And his glory seemed to grow. More people start to find out. They're like scratching their heads. How this possible? Same with the books. He wrote so many books, but I asked again and again different devotees, how many books he wrote? And they're like, I don't know, so many. And then some said 50, some said 60. I heard him.
There are 70 out.
Yes.
75 out in English.
Yes. And I heard himself saying on a tape, I think I have wrote about 100 books.
Yes, he said.
So it's quite astonishing like how all this was going on, and it almost went through like unnoticed by the world, so to say, and it seemed to grow. So how he managed to do it in the middle of all this, the different spiritual teachers. Then also the significance of Swami Maharaj, like in a big time perspective, how one day of Brahma is about 4 billion solar years.
4.32 billion.
Yes, 4.32 billion solar years. In that timeline, Vaidhi Bhakti is there pretty much all the time. Maybe Kali Yuga it goes less, but somewhere or another, the Vaidhi Bhakti is present. Surely. However, out of this 4 billion,
4.32 billion.
Yes, out of this big timeline, 4 billion years, there's 700 years approximately, depends how you want to calculate, when Raganuga Bhakti is presented. So what's the comparison? And our Gurudev is the only, not the only, but he's the pinnacle of that personality who opened the treasure chest to Raganuga Bhakti. All the acharyas in our line, they know about it, but they don't really put it on a table, or they don't really like distribute it like he did. In a way, like 300,000 disciples have this opportunity to enter into Raganuga Bhakti. So yes, in this way, I see him like extremely astonishing pastimes that he has manifested. Then out of all his books he wrote, there's so many different ones. he personally also instructed me to read the famous book, Jaya Dharma. Jaya Dharma. Everyone knows this book. Just like you go to ISKCON, they tell you Bhagavad Gita. This is the book. You gotta know Bhagavad Gita. Everyone knows Bhagavad Gita. So in our Sangha, in Srila Gurudev Sangha, Jaya Dharma is the book. And everyone speak about it. They try to learn it. And there are so many stories around it. So what is the big glory behind Jaya Dharma? What is the big secret in Jaya Dharma? Is there something more in Jaya Dharma? Is this book connected to our Gurudev in a different, like some special way? That's the question. While I was living in India, I heard in one Harikatha, very confidential Harikatha, that actually this book is extremely close to Gurudev because he himself is in this book. In his previous life, he's part of that book. So all his disciples who read it, they can understand how, they can see who he was before. So extremely important book. And he also, they say it's confidential. You're supposed to find it out. As reading the book, at some point you understand, oh, that's my Gurudev in this book. Yes. So that maybe that is also one of the reasons why he asking us to read this book again and again and again. He said himself that I believe. He said, I have read this book 108 times. And that's one of the reasons why everyone come to me and why I can preach so effectively. Because I have read this book so many times. And also he translated this book, right? From Bengali to Hindi. So, yes, it's like a pillar of his preaching. Okay, I think there's one more thing I wanted to mention. Oh, yes. Last time when I was in England, we were speaking, it was Gurudev's Parents' Day. Yeah, we were glorifying Gurudev, and one of the things that come out, and I'm sure it's coming out around the world now, is that there's a line of I remember maybe Shamarani Didi was speaking about it. While there was Bhagavad Gita publishing, and there was the first Bhagavad Gita coming out, and then there was Gurudev name on it, like Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. And he corrected whoever was publishing it. It's like, no, my name is Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. So very and it stuck in my head. I was thinking, what was the big deal? And he said, no, this is my title. Goswami Maharaj. So now, in India, Goswami it can be a very common name. It can be like, oh, it's a Brahmin name, it's a Brahmin, like a lineage name, Goswami. It's like a panda in one way, you can see. So it didn't really click to me, or I didn't really understand it back then. But now, as time is going further, more and more growing, I start to contemplate on this matter. Can it be? Is it possible that there is 6 Goswamis before, and the Goswamis, they did a specific thing. They wrote all the books, they glorified Mahaprabhu, and they discovered the holy places. Then the 7th Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he did exactly the same thing. He wrote about 100 books, and he discovered the holy places. He restored the holy places. Now we come. So can it be that one day in the future, our Gurudev, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, will be having this title as 8th Goswami to complete the circle? Is it possible? Because all his contributions are very, very similar to Sat Goswami's, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and there just seems to be one missing. So maybe we shall see. Thank you.
Question?
thank you for that beautiful glorification of Gurudev's magic, making so many disciples. And I also watched so many of them being made. Just he would meet somebody and then initiate them on the spot. Some brand new person. And then he'd go on to some other person, and then in different countries, sometimes during his class, he would initiate a whole slew of hundreds of devotees in the morning, and then they have to give their Guru Dakshin, so they'd all line up. People with green hair, giant earrings on guys, strange outfits, and so they'd all line up and go on the stage where he'd be sitting and give their Dakshin to Gurudev, and Gurudev would pass it to Brajanath Prabhu. And yes, and how he magically created so many books, sat in secluded rooms with Madhava Priya Prabhu and Tu Krishna Prabhu and Shripad Siddhanti Maharaj, who would help him with his translations into Hindi. And what other magic did he do, you said? Making the books.
He made lost holy places reappear.
Lost holy places reappear. One time there was this really poor-looking villager who came up to him, and about 300 Westerners were having darshan of him, and Gurudev gave him this big fat wad of rupees to reconstruct that particular holy place. So certainly, even though he doesn't get the 8th Goswami title, certainly he's deserving of it. And I thought it was so interesting that he said that Gurudev is a magician, because Gurudev himself said once he would have this, he has this magician disciple named Dr.
Yeah, I remember.
Dr. T from Australia. And like, I've seen it personally in about 4 or 5 cities. He would call on him to do his magic acts as part of the Harikatha program. So once in Badger, Dr. T asked Gurudev in front of everybody, please give me $5. Gurudev gave him $5, and he showed that he has nothing up his sleeve, and he went like that. But he had this plastic glove on his finger, so he hid the 5 and he came out with 100, and he gave the 100 to Gurudev. Because nobody else saw that. It's just that I saw it somewhere. So Gurudev said he can produce $100 out of $5, but I can produce millions and millions of dollars out of $5. I'm the guru of the guru of guru of all magicians. He himself admitted that. Yeah, he said that. So yeah, we can have a Harikatha like that. So thank you for sharing this magic. And Arjuna, you ready now?
Well, then get ready. So the reason I always go last is because
we save the best.
I don't know. No, it's not because I don't know what to speak. But when I hear all the devotees speaking so nicely, it reminds me of so many things so good. So I try to make notes in my head. So that's a trick if you want to.
So everyone should go last.
Yeah, I always like to go last. So the first point I was first note I made in my head was so when the first time I met Srila Gurudev, Prabhu was speaking about how magical Gurudev is, how a magician is. So he did this magic on me, just not directly to me, but to somebody, and that just the energy to be around just woke me up, and has since then washed out so many misconceptions about Sri Sri Guru, what disciple means, and what the Vaishnava means. So one time, when Srila Gurudev was in Bajar, he was giving this lecture, and there was this very nice kirtaniyas. They came to, sing, and they were introduced to Gurudev. Oh, there's these Gurukulis are very nice kirtaniyas. Very, very high class. They speak Hindi. They speak Bengali. Gurudev was speaking to them in Bengali and Hindi. And Gurudev said, okay, very nice. You should come sing before Harikatha. So Gurudev was allowing them to sing. So once they finished, Gurudev didn't even do any pranam mantras or anything. He asked the question. He said, who is the real kirtaniya? Gurudev asked. And everybody was quiet. Why is Gurudev asking this right after kirtan? He said, what's the real kirtaniya? Who is the real kirtaniya? And everybody was quiet. Everybody was saying different things. And then Gurudev said, no. He said, Sukadev Goswami is the real kirtaniya. He said, why? He didn't need any instruments, any beautiful voice, or any harmonium, or any mridanga to make kirtan, he said. He went into everybody's heart, and through that heart connection, he awakened Krishna Prem to all the assemblies. So, this is a real kirtaniya. So Gurudev's like this. So Gurudev's a real kirtaniya. Gurudev doesn't have to even speak. Just one glance, and he can take your heart. So many of us have experienced that. Just one little glance, and that's it. You're done. There's nothing else to do in this world than other to try to repay that little glance. So one time, Gurudev was in Bajar, and I was trying to get in the picture frame behind him because I saw what the Lord is trying to take pictures, But every time I had the mridanga, so every time I tried to move, I was very slow to get there behind Gurudev. So the camera will go there, and the Gurudev will move here. And I was trying to get in the frame, so to have some remembrance of Gurudev. So I couldn't. And Gurudev looked back at me. I'm not joking. Gurudev looked back at me, and he looked at me and he said, like this. So I were right behind him at that moment, and he took a picture, and I found that picture years after. And I'm right behind Gurudev, and Gurudev's like, I'm with the mridanga, Gurudev's looking at the camera. So it's like a very magical thing. Gurudev knows the heart of the disciple. That's no doubt. Everybody in this room knows that. So we cannot hide anything from Gurudev. We try. I try. I cannot hide anything. I can try to hide from Hindu Pati, but he thinks I'm a good devotee, But from Gurudev, I cannot hide. This is today. I was thinking when giving Puspanjali to Gurudev also. We give like very nice flowers, and we offer nice incense to Gurudev and nice ghee lamp. But in reality, Gurudev, what he wants from us is to offer him all these hunger, lust, all these things. To offer it as in a sense like Gurudev, I don't want this in my heart. Gurudev really wants that from us, and hopefully within this life, Gurudev has promised us that within this life we can attain that. If not this one, then the next one. But for sure, it's going to happen because we have come in contact with such an exalted Vaishnava who's coming directly from Srimati Radhika's camp, Srila Rupa Goswami's camp. No, that's not ordinary. We can spend many lifetimes trying to understand how we come to this fortunate situation. I spoke so many times about how I met Gurudev, so I won't speak that again. But it was, but just hearing all the devotees' glorifications of Gurudev, it makes me think that it makes me feel that Gurudev is living in the heart of everyone here. I see some nice devotee sitting there. He really likes Prabhupada's books, for example. But because of Shamarani Deity's beautiful paintings, he has come in contact with Gurudev in such a way. The door, Gurudev has opened that door, And then, what is your name, Prabhuji? You don't really come. Where are you coming from? Russia. Oh. Are you a Gurudev disciple?
No.
Oh, you just came? How do you came here today? How did you come today? Here. Tajaswini Didi. Oh, very nice. So you see, Gurudev is working his magic everywhere. We don't know, you know. Vasanti Didi goes out there and distributes so many books, doing the prison program so nicely. Champakalati Didi goes, takes prasad to the homeless devotees, the people out there. They take Gurudev's prasad. How fortunate they are, you know. So Gurudev's working in this way, like Prabhu said, he's a magician. You don't see it in the background, he doesn't look, but Gurudev is always very humble in the background. He doesn't like his praise, you know. Some people just, they know how to sing and they really want praise. Like now they're traveling all over the world trying to chant the Maha Mantra, but is it really Maha Mantra? You know, is it real kirtan, like Gurudev said? Vyasa Sakadev Goswami is the real kirtaniya. So for many years, this was my fault. I always thought I was so good at mridanga, so good at harmonium, so good at singing. Oh, I will learn this tune today. But when I heard this lecture of Gurudev, it struck me so much. Because it's like, no, Harikatha, you must learn Harikatha. You must learn how to speak. How can you sing something if you don't have any realization of it? You know? Of course, Mahamantra is always available and it's ready for everyone to take on. But gradually, once you come in contact with it, then you must understand what it means. This year in Vrindavan, I was associating with some sadhu, and some really nice sadhu. And then he was explaining how Mahamantra actually, you know, can take you all the way up, you know. Gurudev also gives a really beautiful explanation of Mahamantra, but it's so high to understand. Gurudev saying like you're there with you know, Sri Yugal Kishore in that Jamuna, and you're thinking, you try to meditate on that. It's very hard, actually, with our condition to meditate that. You know, but our Acharya is so merciful, they give a different explanations also, for depending on where Adhikar is. So, that's another thing about Gurudev. Gurudev is always encourage us to understand where we at, what is our Adhikar. He has given the goal, but we must understand where our Adhikar is. And from there, we can practice. So, Gurudev also is giving me this service. You know, people, oh, you're the temple president, blah, 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 you know. So, and sometimes I feel very ashamed because I don't do enough to be called. I see temple presidents, you know, and ISKCON. They are real temple presidents. They're like on it and they're taking care of everything. They come for Mongol Arti. I don't even come for one Mongol Arti a year. You know, all these things. But Gurudev so mercifully still put me here. You know, I haven't been kicked out yet. But Gurudev, why he's doing this? Because he knows I need it from my heart. Like Abhayapur was saying, you know, I'm the guy in the rocking chair, just rocking there. I'm thinking that I'm doing something. You know. So hopefully one day Gurudev will kick me out of this rocking chair and I'll start to crawl, you know, to his lotus feet. And then I just want to stay there. I don't want to go anywhere else. So I pray today that to all of you to please give me the blessings that I can stay at the lotus feet of Mahashri Gurudev. Because without him, I am nothing. Really, not being humble or anything. I'm really nothing without him. Without the shade of his lotus feet, what? I'm nothing. Seriously. So please, I pray to all of you to give me the blessings, to have the strength to continue to try to do this seva and try to please Sri Gurudev and all the Vaishnavas coming through. So please forgive me for my crocodile tears, but you know, please give me that blessing. I know you are connected with Gurudev so more than I will ever be, but please give me that blessing. Don't let me go anywhere else, please. Hare Krishna.
So Arjun Prabhu shared with us the real meaning of Vyasa Puja. not just offering our flowers, but putting all of our contaminations at his feet for him to be like that big fire he is, to burn it. And he also shared Gurudev's definition and example of who is a Kirtaniya. So when he said that, when Arjun Prabhu said that, I remembered that Sukadeva Goswami one, because I had also heard it a couple of times. And who else he said is the real Kirtaniya? He said our Prabhupada is the real Kirtaniya.
Yes.
And another one is that in Holland, he's in 1997, he said that somebody is doing big pujari work on the altar, and he's thinking, I'm the pujari and I'm making all this offering, and everybody's watching me, and I'm doing it so good. And then there's somebody else way in the back of the temple, and he's sitting there in the corner, and nobody knows that he exists, and he's weeping, singing that same arti, and he's thinking, oh, Lalita is doing arti, Vishaka is waving the chamra, so he is the real Kirtaniya. And Arjun gave us so many examples of Gurudev's very soft, smooth, and seamless mercy. So thank you for sharing that. And also at the end, he was like an example of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's and Narottam Das Thakur's songs. Like you could tell he was actually feeling it, and made us feel it too, that I'm nothing without a shade of the lotus feet of my Guru. Unless he does something with me, I can do nothing. Another thing he said was that he was giving a definition of real Guru Puja and Vyasa Puja, that it's not just offering the flowers, but it's offering our contaminations for him to burn and offering our hearts. So just a few weeks ago, the audio Seva team of Srila Gurudev's put out a video where Gurudev said, and I'd like to, I don't know if I sent that to everybody on the WhatsApp, but I will, and Ladini's on my WhatsApp, and Nani, you'll get it if you can share it with the others, where he's saying that real Vyasa Puja is not just offering flowers and boga, although that's also important, but real Vyasa Puja is following the philosophical conceptions of Sri Guru. And just today, I heard him say, if anybody is criticizing your Guru, or your Gurudev's philosophy, or Krishna and Krishna's philosophy, then become like Hanuman, who burnt down Lanka and only left Vyasa and fly. Thank you. Vasanti, would you like to be last but not least?
And don't go without prasad, please. There's lots of prasad.
From this afternoon?
Yeah.
And it was
No.
so delicious.
No, fresh prasad.
Fresh. Oh, good.
Cooked by Lokan Prabhu.
Pasta.
Nice.
Pasta.
Ooh. Pasta for nice the best.
I didn't think anything could beat this afternoon.
Yeah. Amazing.
It's really good.
Jnanaturanyasya Jnanasalakaya Chakshuramitam Jina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpachuluscha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. First, I offer my heartfelt obeisances unto our beloved Holy Master Nitya Vishal Vishnupada Sotsa Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, whose divine appearance day is today. Also unto His divine grace Nitya Vishal Vishnupada Sotsa Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and unto Nitya Vishal Vishnupada Sotsa Shishimad Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj, and to all of our guardians on the path of bhakti. So, I was thinking that so many people say, when they try to get me to speak or think about me, like, oh, you've been on tour with Gurudev for so many years. You're so, so you're so fortunate. You have so much, memories. And yes, it's true, I'm fortunate.
But as Dinabandhu Prabhu today said, a verse was written about him. There was a story. There was also a story about me. There was once a king, and in his kingdom, this madman came in and brought a skull, and he placed it on the table. And this king had nine intelligent, servants and
Advisors.
advisors. And so this madman came in, he put the skull on the table, and said, you have to figure out if this person was intelligent or a fool. So 8 advisors were there, and the 8 advisors were like, it's just a skull. How are we gonna do that? So they all left, and the madman was like,
I thought there was intelligent.
Yeah, I thought they were intelligent, but they're foolish. So then the 9th advisor, Kailash, I believe his name was, and he comes in. He's like, oh,
Kalidas.
Oh, Kalidas. Picks up a bamboo stick, and he puts it in the skull's ear, and it came out the other. And he said, this shows that this person was foolish. Because if it would have gone in the ear and down to the heart, then we didn't know this person was intelligent. So, yes, I was physically with Gurudev for so many days out of the year, so many countries, on flights, darshans, at Niagara Falls, and but like that school, in one ear and out the other.
You're not dead yet, though. You must remember something. Before you die, whatever you remember.
Yes, fortunately for me, but so much, time wasted. And as everybody, the theme of today is like this reboot, this New Year's resolution on Gurudev's Day to stop wasting time, stop engaging in such frivolous activities. And also the theme of being a child. Actually, I was thinking, I didn't even put all these pieces together until this theme tonight of child. But when we were touring with Gurudev would always tell us that we should have $100 on us in case of emergency. We didn't have credit card or anything like in those days. And
they didn't exist.
They existed, but we didn't they've been around, but they didn't exist. I mean, our first flight, my first tour, my first flight, no one came to pick us up, and I didn't have a penny. And he said I went to the information booth and begged them to make a phone call. And anyways, Gurudev told us we should keep $100 on us. And he would share this pastime when him and his godbrother were out preaching, and all the collection, they came back and they gave to Param Gurudev, but this godbrother, I think his name was Sringananda, he kept some rupees in his pocket. He kept some rupees back, and when Param Gurudev asked for it, he said, I need it for my bus fare. And Param Gurudev says, you don't understand this money that you're getting from these people, it's poison. Until you give it, it's poison, but you give it to me, then I purify it, and then I will give it back. So whenever we get donations, we give to Gurudev, and he would give us back $100 to keep, or he'd ask us if we need anything, like a computer or laptop or hard drive or whatever we needed. So one time, I remember I had needed $100 for some dental work. I was in India, and I didn't want to ask Gurudev for it, so I asked my father, Steve, in LA, and he actually gave me. My parents never gave me a penny, even though they're millionaires, because they knew I'd give it to Gurudev, and they didn't want that. So my father at that time, though, gave me $200, and I went to Gurudev, and I was just thinking, because the other night we were discussing when Gurudev came to the Mat. When Gurudev left home and went to the Mat, he was actually the #1 policeman, and the superintendent there said, oh, won't your mother and father be upset? And Gurudev said, no. He said, Guru, and he wasn't lying, because his mother, considered his mother and father, Guru and Vaishnavas. And similarly in Param Gurudev's biography, Param Gurudev also says that it's an insult to ask what's your caste, your parent, like this. Like same with Lavan Kush, when Ram asked who was your mother and father. So it all came to me today when they gave this money to Gurudev and Navadweep. I said, oh, my father sent me some money for my dental work. And Gurudev got really upset. He said, oh. He said, what? How much do you need? I am your father. I will give you. So now it's just like all the, things, it all came together as today for me, which I thought was very beautiful. So yeah, Gurudev, this just sweet, fun, loving, he knows I was such a baby that I couldn't handle the chastisement and I think doled out to many others, but with me it was always pats on the head, and because he knew that, and still.
That you're a good girl.
No, and I couldn't handle that. I would run far away if he acted otherwise. But, yeah, that was my main thought, and it's past 10. So, all the funny past stories I told on Tiro Bob last month. So, I'll end there and just pray that Gurudev would end every festival. At the last day, he would say, don't be weak, don't be hopeless. Chant your rounds, chant your Gayatri mantras, by this you'll be strong. So, praying that and engage in some semblance of sadhan bhakti, and one lifetime he promised us he would take us back to Godhead. So,
he told her mother, he said, I'm taking her back to Godhead.
And then that night, Brenda Didi, back at the house, Brenda Didi said, oh, Gurudev, you told us auntie you take her back to Godhead, what about us? And Gurudev said, I'm taking you all.
Jai!
Gurudev ki! Oh, what's that?
To announce the program tomorrow. Thank you. So tomorrow we're going to have the Namahatta program at our home over in Turkey Creek houses on 441. And Shriman Ramchandra Prabhu is coming. And I believe we're starting at 6 and the Karikata 7 as usual. And we hope everyone can attend and grace us with their...
From Delhi.
He's from Delhi.
No, I know, but nobody else does.
I don't imagine.
He was here last year.
Nobody came.
Oh, really?
Hardly anybody came.
They missed out.
Right? I mean, I've seen his videos. They're amazing. I mean, what I've heard is that he's basically running the mutt in Delhi, my hometown. Yeah. And I've been to it. It's amazing. It's great. The
he
prasad.
built it from a flat land of rubble.
Really?
He built a palatial temple by going all around the world and getting donations, and then working with workers. It's the temple in Janakpuri, and it's a magnificent structure and temple compound. And he also, I'm just saying this so more people will go to his class.
Yeah.
And he also helped with Srila Gurudev's publications. Srila Gurudev spent months and months living in his temple and taking his personal service. And Srila Gurudev also, before going to Puri, in his Anjalila pastimes, he spent a lot of time in that Delhi temple. And Ramchandra also brought hundreds of devotees to get initiated by Srila Gurudev. And when Gurudev was in Mathura and Vrindavan, he would organize busloads of devotees from Delhi to come to see Srila Gurudev. So he's a very powerful preacher, very funny, he knows the philosophy very well, and he's responsible for collecting so many millions of rupees for Gurudev's temple projects in India.
Are we lucky to have him now?
You're very lucky.
Yeah.
His English is very...
And his English is first class also.
Even his English is understandable.
Is his what?
English.
English what?
In English. Kirtan.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
All to Mandali Vajra Prabhu. He also, what's your name, Prabhu, from Russia? Huh? Wow. So right, dear Lolita, he's been reading Srila Prabhupada's so many books for many, many years. And then somehow or other he got an original of one of my ISKCON paintings. It wasn't even just all mine, it was one of those assembly line paintings. And he restored it, and that's how he came to connect with us. And he started writing to us, and then he came to visit, and he also got all of Gurudev's books, and now he's starting to love Gurudev and reading Gurudev's books, following his instructions. Now he's getting Gurudev's books in 2 bookstores near where he lives, 2 progressive bookstores, and he has a beautiful wife named Susangata, and so I just wanted to formally welcome him and introduce him to all of you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay,
So, next time I'm going to